History books tell you about wars, revolutions, or leaders that changed the world. They probably don't write about the most important event in human history. That night, we narrowly escaped extinction. Date: September 26, 1983. Location: a secret bunker near Moscow, not even visible on maps. Time: 15 minutes past midnight. That night, whether life on our planet would continue depended neither on an American president nor a Soviet leader. Everything rested between the two lips of a single, tired and stressed man sitting in that room buried under concrete. Stanislav Petrov. Today, we will talk about how something a human didn't do saved billions of lives. And do you know the most terrifying part? That man being there that night was a complete coincidence.
To understand the horror Petrov experienced that night, we first need to breathe in the atmosphere of 1983. Let's be clear, 1983 was the year the Cold War reached its boiling point. Historians define it as the year closest to the apocalypse. Tensions between America and the Soviet Union were at a breaking point. President Reagan openly called the Soviets the evil empire. Diplomacy was dead. Everyone was waiting with their finger on the trigger. Moreover, just 3 weeks before Petrov's shift, a terrible event had occurred. The Soviets had shot down a civilian airliner entering their airspace, Korean Airlines Flight 007, mistaking it for a spy plane. 269 civilians lost their lives. The Soviet army was tense, ashamed, and had sworn never to be caught off guard again. This is the powder keg Stanislav Petrov was guarding. His duty was simple: to monitor the Soviet satellite system named OKO, or I. If America fired nuclear missiles, the system would see it, Petrov would press the button, and the Soviets would launch a counterattack, destroying the world. That was the protocol: mutually assured destruction. Actually, Petrov wasn't supposed to be there that night. He had taken over the shift for a sick friend. The night was calm, until 12:15 a.m. The silence of the bunker was torn apart by a deafening siren. That terrifying red light on the operation panel lit up. Missile attack. There was clear data on the computer screen. A nuclear missile had been launched from the United States. Target: the Soviet Union. Confidence level: highest. Probability: 100%. Everyone in the room froze. All eyes turned to Petrov behind the glass partition. He had only minutes to decide. If this was a real attack, he had to alert the Soviet leadership immediately. Alerting them meant launching counter-nuclear missiles. That meant World War III and the end of civilization. Petrov looked at the screen.
No.
He was one of the engineers who designed the system. He thought more like a scientist than a soldier, and he felt something was wrong. A voice inside him said, "This is nonsense." Why? His logic was simple. If the Americans were going to start a war, they wouldn't do it with a single missile. Attacking with a single missile was suicide, because the massive Soviet arsenal was still intact. If you were going to start a war, you attack with thousands of missiles to destroy the enemy, not just one, he thought. And he made that historic decision. He picked up the red phone and, with a trembling voice, gave his report to High Command. System error. False alarm. But the nightmare wasn't over. Seconds after hanging up the phone, the sirens began to howl even more violently. The system detected a second missile, then a third, fourth, and fifth. The screen no longer said single missile, it said missile attack started. Petrov's single missile logic was collapsing. 5 missiles. This was too many to be an error, but still too few for an all-out war. Petrov was gambling with his life. While the supercomputer in front of him screamed attack, he chose to trust human intuition. He told the system he helped develop, on which billions of rubles were spent, "You are a stupid machine," and he didn't change his report. I still say it's a false alarm. So, was Petrov right? Or would Moscow be vaporized in 20 minutes? That's when the deadly 23-minute wait began. Soviet ground radars were scanning the horizon. If the missiles were real, they should appear on the radars any moment. The minutes felt like hours. Everyone in the bunker was chain-smoking. And finally, the radar screens came up clean. The sky was empty. Petrov was right. There were no missiles. So, how did a billion-dollar satellite system make such a huge mistake? The answer was neither a hacker attack nor an American trick. The answer was clouds. Yes, you heard that right. The event happened during the autumn equinox. The sun, the satellite, and the Earth aligned in such a way that sunlight hit high-altitude icy clouds and reflected like a mirror directly into the satellite's sensor. The system mistook this bright sunlight reflecting off the clouds for the flame from a nuclear missile engine. In other words, the thing that would have caused us to destroy the world was just sunlight coming from the wrong angle.
So, what do you think happened after this event? Was Petrov given medals? Was a statue built for him? No. The Soviet bureaucracy knew that admitting the mistake meant admitting their own failures. Petrov was reprimanded not for saving the world, but for forgetting to fill out the logbook during the crisis. Instead of a reward, he was quietly pushed aside. He was forced into early retirement from the army. He even lost his health due to the nervous breakdown he suffered. Because the event was stamped top secret, he couldn't even tell his wife what he did that night for 10 years. He lived in a small apartment on a modest pension. The world only learned the name Stanislav Petrov in 1998, 15 years after the event, when a general published his memoir.
Stanislav Petrov left us in 2017. He always said, "I am not a hero, I was just in the right place at the right time." But this story reminds us of something very important. Today, we live in a world of artificial intelligence, autonomous weapons, and algorithms. If a computer had made the decision entirely on its own that night, you wouldn't be watching this video right now. The machine looked at the data and said, "Fire." The human looked at the context, doubted, and said, "Wait." Petrov showed us that sometimes the greatest heroism isn't doing something, but stopping to think. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye for now.